Every single person in your organization should consider themselves in a sales role, no matter what their function or job title is. Who in your organization is in sales? Now, you might instantly think, well, the salespeople, the sales department, maybe the marketing department. But I would challenge you to think that everyone in your organization is in sales. Every single person in your organization should consider themselves in a sales role, no matter what their function or job title is. I'm again going to reference chapter 7 today out of my book, An Insider's Guide to Business, Secrets from an Entrepreneur's Playbook. And again, available on Amazon. All proceeds, every single dime of proceeds goes towards To Right Love in Her Arms, which is a charity that prevents self-harm and suicide. And what I want to share with you from chapter 7, which is titled Everyone is in Sales, is that a lot of times there are limiting beliefs around our team members and around sales itself. And, that sales is slimy and people don't want to be in sales and they don't want to sound salesy and whatnot. And there's actual reasons behind that. And I want to explore some of that. But really, the way this short monologue is going to go, I believe by the end, you'll feel highly confident and agree with me that everyone is in sales. And as importantly, understand why it's so important that the culture is that of everyone is in sales. Of course, they're going to have different roles and responsibilities, but at the end of the day, we are all in an organization to serve our end customer. So why do people sometimes say, I don't want to sell, I'm just an engineer, or I'm just a project manager, or I'm just this, or I'm just that? A lot of times it's because they have their own fear of rejection. They have maybe a lack of self-confidence around selling skills and how to do it in a professional way that feels good for both parties. And again, we're talking about persuasion and influence, not manipulation. Persuasion and influence is helping someone see the gap that they have between their current state and where you can take them with your service or product. And if you can't help them, you shouldn't offer to. But manipulation is getting somebody to do something that is good for you, but bad for them, right? And that's not what this podcast is about, and that's not certainly what I believe in as an individual and as a professional. But I do understand that there's thinking and feeling around sales itself, because there were some less than scrupulous people that have been involved in sales and still are. But that's not us, and that's not you, and that's not your team. But it could be that lack of confidence around a poor skill set or a previous bad experience with a salesperson has left them with that bad taste in their mouth and the connotations around sales. But it also may be that because they don't have a background in sales and they don't have even benchmark or baseline training in very simple persuasion and influence tactics, that they have that lack of self-confidence. And so that's on you as a leader, right? May not be your fault, but it's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. And your team can't just be good. They have to be excellent. They have to be absolutely excellent in helping a customer understand why it's beneficial to work with your company, because the market is way too competitive these days just to leave it up to chance. So why should everyone be in sales, and what is the data behind that versus just my opinion? It's because the cost of customer acquisition, the cost to acquire a customer, is increasing. No matter what field you're in, however you generate new clients and new prospects, new leads, the cost of a lead, the cost of acquiring a new customer across almost every industry is rising. And that means that we have to be better at closing and retaining those clients, whether it's B2C or B2B. It really doesn't matter. I would imagine that the industry that you compete in is hyper competitive. And if it's not hyper competitive, it's going to be in a matter of months or maybe 2 years, because it's capitalism in this country. Capitalism drives this country. That's a good thing. That means that it forces us to innovate. It forces us to get better. It forces us to level up and be more efficient, because if not, someone will be in line behind us to steal our lunch money. And the only way to outperform your competition is to ensure that you outservice the customer, or outservice them with the customer, and you provide better value, more of a value stack, not necessarily a lower price. Don't go there, but more value is implied with your service or product offering. But if it's not hyper competitive already, it will be, which means everyone needs to be in sales or have that mindset. And attrition of customers is a normal thing. And depending on the industry you're in, that percentage, that monthly churn or yearly churn would vary, of course. But there's always going to be an inevitable churn of customers, meaning we have to bring new customers in. And we just said that the cost of acquisition is going up. So the cost to replace the old customer is more expensive than it was to get that old customer, which means everyone is in sales and needs to understand that. Every customer touch point, whether they're dealing with you, if you're an engineer and they're dealing with you, if you are just in customer service maybe and handling some of the inquiries or the issues, if you're in finance and you're working on collecting receivables, whatever it may be, every single touch point with a customer is an opportunity for that employee to reinforce the reasons, the value, and the benefit of that customer working with your company. It sounds so simple, but usually somebody in finance is just thinking, my job is to collect the money. That's my job. That's what I do. And today I collected money. But what if they also collected those accounts receivables and left the customer that they were collecting it from with a reinforcement message around how your company, XYZ company, appreciates them as a customer, and they've made a great decision because of number one, number two, and number three reasons, whatever those are, for working with your company. So again, we appreciate your business, and hopefully we're still continuing to deliver on these three, key points that help your company. Is that, do you find that to be the case? Yes, I do. Great, man. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Like that little touch point from a finance person to another finance person means the finance person or the customer themselves is going to tell other people they're going to be a raving fan, and they're going to reinforce why they think it's good to do business with your company. You're going to create a raving fan, right? So just know that regardless of the person's position, if there's any bit of customer-facing activity, even an email, it's an opportunity to reinforce the benefits of that customer working with you. And if everyone doesn't feel they're in sales, I would actually submit that is a risk that you will take to potentially go out of business. If you don't enlist your entire team to have a sales mindset, I think you're taking a risk of going out of business because your competition will do this. And again, things are getting hyper competitive. Inflation is going up, meaning the cost of getting a lead is more and replacing old customers more. So you have to do this because we have to grow, because if we don't, we die, right? We grow or we die. We can't just stay stagnant. Now, the crazy thing is only 10% of people have a learning mindset in the United States. And this is not me. This is from Harvard Business Review. They looked and they studied thousands of people. Only 10% of Americans have a learning mindset, which means they're going to listen to podcasts like you're listening to right now. They're going to read books that are going to help them. They're going to read, business biographies. They're going to read the latest credentials. If they're an optician, they're going to learn the latest things about contact lenses and glasses and whatever. They're going to continually learn because they want to. They desire to do that because they're leveling up and they're in the top 10%. The other 90% of our country does not have a learning mindset, and they will stay right where they're at unless it's mandated by their employer, their school, or whatever, a third party that they acquire these new skills or learn something. So said another way, 10% of your workforce is learning on their own. And just like you listening to podcasts like this, the other 90% won't learn anything unless mandated or required to. So you must require your team to level up their skills and abilities in sales, in persuasion influence, if you expect them to do some of the behavior that we talked about earlier. And remember, when you train somebody, you're training them above the baseline. But then after a couple of weeks, that learning is going to that retention is going to decline. But then if you train them again, have another training session, their learning curve is going to go above where it had rescinded back to. And then continually it levels up. So goes up, comes down a little bit, goes up more, comes down a little bit, goes up more. And you have this positive slope because learning and development and training is a process. It's a process, not an event. So many people look at training as I went to this webinar, or I watched this webinar, or I went to this conference this weekend and I got trained. Okay, that's great. That's up above the benchmark or the baseline. And now we need to continue to train. And that means that you have to lean into your team and continue to train them. And I would share with you, I know that, you may be thinking, yeah, but what if I invest all this time and effort and teach people some baseline persuasion influence skills and they leave? What if I invest time, effort, resources, and my own blood, sweat, and tears into training my team and these people leave? Well, what if you don't and they stay? That's the question you should be asking. You have to invest in your people. You have to invest in your team. And remember, a confused mind makes no decisions. So when we confuse our prospect, our client, give them too many options from which to choose, too many pricing points, too many ways to finance, all that, a confused mind will make no decisions. But a confused staff member will make no sales. If they don't understand what their role is, how they can contribute, how they can reinforce the message of your company and the benefit of working with your company, if they don't know specifically how to do that and have been trained to do that, well, then we can't expect them to do that. And I would also share with you that learning, I want you to think about learning as the Legos. You can't just build the whole thing at once. And so, for instance, if we were going to role play, even a customer service rep to role play, taking care of somebody's account or a billing issue and getting them, back on track. Again, that the way that we engage with the customer and the way that we leave the customer, again, positively reinforcing the benefits of working with our company, that can't just be, okay, let's role play this from A to Z. That's not how humans learn. We actually learn by learning in chunks. So you'd want to do the first part of that customer interaction and practice that and role play that again and again and again and again until they've practiced so much they don't get it right. They've practiced so much they can't get it wrong. That's different. Don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong. And when you take that approach and then you chunk the learning, so maybe it's the beginning of the call and the customer interaction, and then you practice the middle, dealing with the issue and role play that, and then role play how to leave the customer in a better place than you found them. Again, that's any customer interaction. It doesn't have to be in sales. It doesn't have to be in marketing. It can be any customer interaction that anyone on your team is having with client, customer, account, whatever it may be. And so if you can chunk the learning for them and then you put it all together and have like a full on, role play from A to Z, you will see they are so much more effective. But what we do is we try to practice the whole thing all at once. Let's do that twice, 3 times. Okay, good. You're trained. Let's go. Practice little steps and think about Legos. You're just stacking these Legos of learning on top of each other. And pretty soon you have this really tall tower with a very strong base. But you can't do it all at once. You have to build that base first. You have to stack those Legos. And when those Legos go in, as you know, they get pretty affixed on there. They're pretty tight. They're not going to come apart. They're not going to go away because you've locked in the learning. Because again, we're building this in chunks. And I want you to think about role play, and I want you to think about training in that manner, right? So lastly, I will leave you with one thought around selling and helping your team understand that sales is not a dirty thing. Sales is not a slimy thing. And I'm going to do an entire other monologue on sales and sales approach and sales tips and sales, guidance, if you will. But today is just getting getting you and helping you get into the mindset of everyone in my company is in sales, regardless of the role. We'll start there, and then I'll do another one of these monologues and give you some really juicy ways to help your customers, because sales equals help. Sales doesn't equal making a sale. Sales equals help. And when you do that, you'll make plenty of sales. So I'll leave you with one thing here, and that's that if your team starts any interaction with, before they're going to talk about a policy, talk about collecting AR, talk about product design, whatever their role is, if they start off looking at the customer and they say, would it help you if I reviewed the design aspects right now? Would it help you if I shared with you the process to help that you would just need to do to achieve your refund or whatever? Would it help you if I went over the 3 pricing options we have so we can figure out which one makes the most sense for you and is best for your budget? When you start off a sentence with, would it help you if, what you've done is you've put the prospect in the position to say yes to your offer. And what do I mean by that? A lot of times we'll say, well, let me show you. Or here are the prices. Let's review those. Or, hey, do you want to see our membership options? Those are putting the prospect in a defensive position because they know what's coming. You're going to ask them to spend money and do something. But when you say, would it help you if blah, blah, blah? Would it help you if yada, yada, yada? When you say, would it help you if, you automatically lower that wall of resistance because people then are hearing you say, you want to help them. And you're even asking, would it help you if? When you do that, I promise you, you're going to get a much more positive response. And even people that don't feel like they're in sales are going to feel much more comfortable in making an ask or making a request of the client or the customer because they've started their request with, would it help you if? Try that on for size. Make sure everyone in your organization understands they are in sales because Chapter 7 from An Insider's Guide to Business will tell you everyone is in sales. And when you do that, you will prosper. Good luck. Thank you for tuning in to the ThriveMore podcast. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any of the resources that we mentioned during the podcast. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and the greatest. You can connect with me on any of the socials at Real Roger Martin. And be sure to check out our website, ThriveMoreBrands.com. There you'll find information on the brands we support and information on franchising. Thanks again for tuning in.